Why must young Americans, born into a land exultant with hope and with golden promise, toil and suffer and sometimes die in such a remote and distant place? The answer, like the war itself, is not an easy one.
Worked and prayed for has finally come. For the first time in 12 years, no American military forces are in Vietnam. All of our American POWs are on their way home.
What is one life worth? How much do I sacrifice for the soul of one human being? Someone I don't even know. I've served my time in hell. Could there be a second chance? A day of redemption? A miracle that will save me from ever feeling unwanted or unloved ever again? A wise man once said that time heals all wounds. One thing I know for certain. That man never went to war. When I first landed in 1968 in Vietnam, it was such chaos, and they were rushing us off the plane. I mean, as fast as we can move. They were yelling at us, get off, get off. Little did I know that we were entering the biggest offensive of the Vietnam War, the Tet Offensive. It was all hell breaking loose. Machine gun fire, just explosives. I mean, it was just chaos, insane. I didn't think I'd ever make it alive. I thought, how can anybody stay 1 year in this place? And I ended up staying 27 months. Why did I make it and so many others didn't? And there's always that guilt. When I got home from Vietnam, you know, you felt the rejection that I knew in my life. One thing I always remember is at the airport how cold people were to us. There was never a, hi, how are you doing? Glad you're home. I mean, not one kind word, not one welcome home. They actually gave me a brand new dress uniform. They made us put it on, and I had to walk back to the barracks, and I started tearing off my tie, opening my shirt. I got back to the camp. I took my dress uniform off, put my clothes on, carried that out, and threw it in the garbage. I was in and out of trouble. I mean, I was only out 30 days, and here I'm at, getting ready to go to court and sentenced to 14 months in prison for having drugs. You know, when I got out of jail again, I hit the road. One night in Humboldt, Texas, I was all alone. March 18th, 1976, when I asked Christ into, I mean, I was so excited that he revealed himself to me so real, so changed my life, so forgiven me. I actually jumped up and ran in the bathroom and baptized myself. I mean, that seems stupid and people laugh at me today, but I was just so set free. But from that moment on, I said, Lord, no, I don't have much to give. I don't have nothing to give you but a broken life. That's all I knew. and I felt he was going to use it. Being a Vietnam vet, not long after the war, not thinking about ever seeing such a thing, and soon after I found myself going right back into a war zone, which seemed absolutely crazy, absolutely nuts.
It does seem a little crazy that my dad was in Vietnam and survived 2 years there to go right back to these places overseas that are just as bad.
A lot of these countries that Tommy goes to, the Red Cross and United Nations aren't even there. They're just war and torn.
Hundreds and hundreds of people he helps, hundreds of children that have nothing, orphans that have no parents, no clothes.
The love that he has for others is radical love. It's a love a lot of people don't understand. Tommy's made 2 oaths, one as a soldier, no one left behind, and one unto God, an oath, no one left unloved.
In January of 1973, I was hitchhiking across America when I heard President Nixon announce the war was over. I was one of the blessed ones. I was able to return home to my family, but I couldn't help wondering if we had left American POWs behind when we left Vietnam. In 2008, I was in Southeast Asia doing humanitarian work when I heard the story of a man living in a remote village claiming to be an MIA named John Hartley Robertson. As a Christian and a veteran, I didn't have a choice. I had to meet this man and see for myself if he was an American soldier. Returning to Vietnam was hard for me, so my cousin Joe came along to help. I needed to meet the man claiming to be John, and if he were an American, find a way to bring him back to the States and reunite him with his family. He was tall, much taller than Vietnamese, and he looked at us and started weeping.
The first thing he did is head right towards us, and we hugged each other, And just his posture, the way he presented himself, he didn't look Vietnamese.
In my heart, I just felt, well, there's something here.
We went right into finding out, well, what's your story? What happened?
John and I had a lot in common. We both joined the Army when we were 17 and served in Vietnam at the same time in 1968. He struggled with severe memory loss, and it was clear from his wounds that he had been in some kind of accident. But the most perplexing thing was he couldn't speak English.
He don't know. He know when, but he know he John. He don't know when.
He was in the Army, but what service was he in?
Army Air Force. So គាត់ជាទាហានបាញ់ចឹងឬក៏គាត់ជាអ្នកបើកបរយន្តហោះសួរគាត់មើល
Bác là lái máy bay hay là bác là người bắn? Bắn.
Army.
Army.
Yeah. Army. Does he remember that day?
Chắc thế.
The day it happened.
So គាត់ចាំពេលណាដែលมันកើតឡើងvớiបាញ់គ្នាហ្នឹងគាត់អត់ចាំសួរគាត់ចាំអត់
Bác nhớ là lúc chuyện xảy ra là bác có nhớ không?
If he cannot remember, how does he know he was shot down?
សួរគាត់បើគាត់អត់ដឹងអីផងមិនគាត់ដឹងថាចន្ទហោះគាត់ត្រូវគេបាញ់អញ្ចឹងណា
Nếu bác không biết thì sao mà bác biết là máy bay là bị bắn rớt xuống? He's getting upset.
Yeah.
It's about
We sat down outside in the cafe, and we called the embassy and said, "Hey, we have this man here who claims to be an American soldier." In their sternness in their statement, we need you to stay where you're at, and we would like to see you tomorrow. And we said, "Sure." But 10 minutes later, they showed up, Once there at the embassy, they had a very difficult time fingerprinting him. They made a few attempts. He was difficult because his hands were so large.
When I brought him to them for fingerprinting, they called me up and said there's not enough proof to prove he is John Hartley Robertson. And I responded, well, there's not enough proof to prove he isn't. I'm a Vietnam veteran, and everywhere I go, there's all kinds of POW signs, MIAs, bring them back home. Well, we found a living man who has lost some of his mind and can't think, and he's been up in this village for 40 years, and he wants to go home. He wants help. He wants help, and we can't abandon our troops. What a testimony if we do. So this is just part of it. We're just asking whoever sees this to help us out and help him out. Thank you. He gets very agitated, very emotional.
So, obviously you have some familiarity, you can relate to some of the things of what John has gone through.
It was hard for me because, not being able to speak English, I didn't understand that. I just thought, how could you lose that? How could you not have, be able to speak some of that again? So that, then being questioned about him being a phony, of course, gave me doubts, but not enough to not pursue it.
Yeah, we call it second language syndrome. On the surface, it is very perplexing. And, when we work with patients who have second language syndrome, it is odd. From a clinical perspective, it actually doesn't surprise me, because when you add extreme stress and then you add to the potential for quite a serious brain injury, that's kind of the perfect chemistry for somebody to go back to their default at the time that they were injured. Because that's the only way that he could make sense of the world around him, was by talking to others in Vietnamese. English didn't help him in that circumstance whatsoever. I'm sure that you've had to kind of climb your way back to being who you are and feeling like you're going to be okay.
Well, it's rekindled a lot of fire. I mean, emotions in me, and renewed probably way too much of my past. I live it daily. I just. His life, to me, it speaks. I can't quit because I think of the guys left behind, and I think of, what I've gone through. After my first meeting with John, I was left with more questions than answers. I came back home and began searching for information about John Hartley Robertson. I contacted anyone I thought might be able to help, from the Army to congressmen and MIA organizations, but no one seemed interested. Most suggested I was either just crazy or naive. Maybe America has had enough of the Vietnam War and wanted the memories of those years to be forgotten. Joe and I finally found John's wife and 2 daughters, but they were reluctant to provide any assistance in helping us determine if the man we found was their husband and father. But despite all my efforts, I couldn't find any record of his parents or if he had any brothers or sisters. But it turned out we weren't the only ones looking for information about John Robertson. That's when I first met Ed Mahoney.
I served with John from 1959 to 1961. John was a squad leader and was, in my mind, the epitome of a soldier. I was 18 years old, very impressionable. He was a father figure to me. He was kind and friendly. And then learning about his loss, it just hit me. It hit me hard that this wasn't supposed to happen. You know, he was too good. This couldn't happen to him. I still have dreams about him. I have recollections about him, and it doesn't go away, and it will never go away. And it left an unsettling feeling in my stomach about John because nobody seemed to know what happened to him. John Robertson was doing something very special, something unique, going over the fence. Probably a CIA orchestrated mission that nobody knew about, only the participants.
I knew about SOG. It was pretty common knowledge throughout Special Forces that there was a super secret organization in South Vietnam. We're running clandestine operations, cross-border operations.
Nobody was allowed to have an airborne tattoo and be in SOG. No IDs were carried. Uniforms were not U.S. military uniforms. We had sterile fatigues. No identification at all, no dog tags, no ID cards.
We were in Laos illegally, so there's no doubt that we were over there illegal, but American lives were more important than a line on the ground that nobody could see anyway.
The Ho Chi Minh Trail, moving through Laos and Cambodia, was very important to the North Vietnamese because it was their primary conduit of men and material into South Vietnam.
The jungle was tremendous. The double and triple canopies. I mean, they could have a sport event underneath the canopy. You'd never be able to see it.
SOG was different from the rest of Special Forces because they were under operational control of CIA. The executive branch wanted to keep it all secret from Congress. In fact, all SOG operations were approved by the White House. So the control was the White House, but the tactical day-to-day operation was CIA. So there was a lot of secrecy involved in keeping the CIA operations secret from Congress, from the State Department, and from the American people.
The plausible deniability of us being in Laos was strictly a political consideration. That's straight out of Washington, D.C. They didn't want the world to know that we were operating in another country. It was very well understood as far as casualty rates concerned that we were suffering higher casualties than anybody in the world. It was amazing. We lost teams, entire teams, that simply disappeared and were never heard from again. I called back the FOB and I told them that they needed to start rounding up the helicopters to come pull us off that mountaintop. He told me that they were working on the helicopters to sit tight, button up, and he would provide as much air support as he possibly could. One King Bee came in. Robertson was a chase medic, and he was coming in to take our wounded out. And as they came in, I can remember it just as clean and clear as if it was yesterday. I simply looked up, and I could have thrown a rock and hit the rotors. They were that close coming in to the top of the hill.
I saw Robertson in the Dorda helicopter, and it kind of slowed down, came to almost a hover.
And all of a sudden there was this tremendous fusillade, if you will, of ground fire roaring up towards that helicopter.
And I saw the NVA jump up and hose down the chopper.
When I looked up and saw Robertson in the doorway, and then this wall of fire came up.
Sort of shuddered and nosed down. Once he left over the side of the hill, I never saw it again. I heard the crash, but I never saw the aircraft hit the ground.
So after the chopper went down, the Air Force then circled over and they said, you know, obviously no survivors, and they bombed it.
It was very common to put an airstrike on top of the burnt helicopter already. I mean, the individual was already dead, and now what we want to do is we're trying to destroy the evidence to stop any propaganda used against us.
I don't think it would have done any good at all to send live human beings down to recover 3 dead human beings, and suddenly, instead of 3 dead human beings, we've got 15 or 20 dead human beings. Between the time that Robertson's King Bee went down and the following day, we had a whole lot of airstrikes coming in. We had a lot of folks coming in, just ripping that hill apart around us.
The whole mountain was on fire. And I remember one of the pilots saying, you know, you got 400 dead in front of you. There's bodies laying all around you.
On day 5, the chopper started coming in first thing in the morning, and we got the dead and wounded out first. When we went into Laos, it was pretty much assured that if you got into deep trouble, that the only way you're going to get out is if somebody came in by helicopter and got you. And there was no chance in hell that you could walk your way out because you're in North Vietnamese divisional areas, basically. And so you had an awful lot of truce between you and the South Vietnamese border. So, I mean, there was a chance you could possibly do it, but slim to none, I would say.
The ghost of 1968. The faces of the people I have lost have never left me. It was not only my nightmare, but one for the entire country. It was the year America lost its innocence, a time when faith, hope, and love seemed scarce. 68 claimed Dr. King and Bobby Kennedy. That May, when John's helicopter was shot down, more U.S. soldiers were killed than any other month of the entire war. Maybe one soldier, lost and reunited with his family, could restore a little bit of all that we lost. There's a story that Jesus tells about a shepherd with 100 sheep. He loses one, just one gets lost. He leaves the 99 behind to go after that one sheep. Well, it's easy to say, don't worry about one lost sheep. You still have 99, but the shepherd left the 99 to find the one. I can't forget that one, and that made me realize how important it is not to forget John. To keep going, to never quit.
14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Here I come.
It's hard to understand a guy like my dad. Why would a guy like this that went through so much, that survived the war, keep going overseas and doing this when he really doesn't have anything? He doesn't have much. He does it on nothing.
I believe this is what he's just called for. This is what makes him happy and just fills a void, I believe, too.
My mom told me that he was having some flashbacks of when he was in Vietnam, and I just worry about him being upset. But he's never been one to talk about it to me or my brothers or sisters. I'm not even sure if he's talked to my mom about it.
Things bother him, but he doesn't let it show. Sometimes I think he tries to hide his feelings, like he'll try to be a soldier when inside his heart melts, you know. It hurts me. It's hard. I just want to hold him, and I just want to, you know, you want to take that hurt away.
Come in? What? I'm gonna bear the front. Yeah.
I was born in Detroit, Michigan, into a large family, 12 brothers and sisters. Grew up, moved a lot, but we also were separated a lot. My mom struggled and had some problems. I remember, you know, we were put in these homes off and on. I didn't understand why our parents were taking us there. You would see a typical movie about orphans, and basically that's how it was for us. I do remember any of those days that the next moment somebody from your family is gonna come. There's gonna be a rescue, there's gonna be, this ain't real. This is, you know, a nightmare that you'll wake up from. But day after day, it doesn't happen. And I remember, you know, my dad did come. And this is what you hope for. It wasn't hoping for toys, it wasn't hoping for this, it wasn't hoping for that. We had none of that. We just wanted to be home. We wanted to know, you know, what home was. And you know, when my father did show up, it was life. It was like having new life again. You could see where my father's window was, and I seen the smoke pouring out. The fire department, the police started showing up, and I remember asking the policeman that night, he pushed me back, and I said, "My dad all right, my dad all right?" And he kept saying, "Yes, he's all right, he's all right." Next morning, I found out my father didn't make it, that he had passed away. Everything just collapsed within a moment, and you know, life just went downhill. All we would do all day long till we went to bed or ate our meals was sit in a hard chair in front of the TV. We could not turn our heads and whisper to somebody. If we were caught, Mr. Roy would call us up to him. We had to kneel before him, and he would, punch us on the head. I mean, just take his hand and punches on top of the head, real as hard as he could. I mean, just almost knock you out. You know, I mean, you're kneeling on the floor before him, and he would do that. Then he would go tell you what they called stand on the line, which was down the hall, and they'd have a little piece of black tape on the floor, and you'd stand there. And he would say, you stand there till I get tired. Of course, he'd be in his rocking chair. And that was day in and day out. I would see people come in and out. They were out 1-2 days later. But not me. Nobody was there to come get me. Take me out of such a dark place.
I think he sees how his life was in shambles and just so torn apart and lonely. I believe Tommy is a soldier on the outside, but inside he is a little, boy. He's a man, but he has those hurts and those feelings.
No child should have to be treated unkind or hurt purposely or set aside. You feel left behind, you feel lost. So the judge basically looked at me sternly and said, listen, you're going to get 6 to 8 months in jail, or you have a choice of going into the U.S. Army, and I chose the Army. Is this guy absolutely a true MIA? Is he isn't? If he is, you know what? He's a human being. He's a person. He's not a piece of meat as they treated me as a child. He is not somebody you step on right off and kick out the door just because somebody says you should. And that's where we're at right now. And I'm not going to quit. You know, we live in a world where we look at people and we don't think about them. We just pass them by. But yet, every life is worth something. Every person is valuable. To ensure we got accurate information from John, Joe and I enlisted our trusted friend Hugh to be our translator. And then we knew getting physical evidence was going to be difficult and dangerous, but with the help of locals, we might have a chance to make contact with John without alerting Vietnamese officials. We had no idea if John would show up. But we knew if we were going to make a move, we had to make it quickly. People say that, me and Joe have been foolish to help him to try to find the truth. But he needs to know that the truth has to come out one way or the other. I was in Washington, and we went to the memorial, and I found the name. See, and it was on the wall. And we're just concerned for the truth, for him, for everyone. Important for him.
Yeah.
Does he remember maybe where he was born or something?
Chú có nhớ là chú sanh ra ở đâu không?
Does he remember his date of birth?
Chú có nhớ ngày sanh chú không? Viết ra ha. Ngày sanh. July 20th, 1930. Who's that?
Ed Mahoney.
Ed Mahoney. Does he know? Does he know the guy?
John Hartley trained in Mahoney.
Yeah.
in the service.
Yeah.
Does he remember any of those?
He tried to remember.
Oh, yeah, it's difficult. Does he remember that day? What happened?
How many people? Chú nhớ hồi xưa chú có đi trực thăng này không? Có. He remember he was in there. How many people were in the helicopter? Bao nhiêu người trong cái trực thăng đó chú nhớ không? Seven people. Chú nhớ chú làm gì không? Chú nhớ chú làm gì trong trực thăng không? Bắn súng, xạ thủ. He's a gunner, machine gunner. Xạ thủ là gì? Yeah.
No, I remember that. No.
It's machine gun. Mà chú nhớ chú có mấy người con? 2 người con, gái hàng trai. He said he remembered he has 2 children.
Does he remember his daughter's name?
Chú nhớ là tên của con gái chú không? This is
That's his oldest daughter, if that's
oldest.
The oldest daughter.
And the granddaughters.
Yes, the grandchildren, yeah.
Chú nhìn ra không? What would be best to show proof that he is an American is that there is a dentist across the street. And if we could use a tooth, it'll prove whether he'd be American or not. He's just got 1 molar left, right top. Nothing over on the left. Down here, his molars are good. So we could ask the dentist to find out which one would be good to remove. Yeah, we've explained to John what the purpose is for us here, for having a molar removed. He's willing to go through this process. He's more willing to go through it than we are. We realize how tough it is for him, but he wants to get it done. The tooth that's required to be pulled has to be a molar in order to get a sufficient isotope test to determine what part of the world or what part of our country, if he's from our country, where he was born. And this will be the tell-all and end-all test to determine where this man is from, whether he be American, European, Asian, or what. This proves now how much he's willing to go through giving up his molar, his only molar that he has left in his mouth. He really wants to know to find out whether he's an American or not. That's right. Oh, let's see.
Nếu mà ba biết thì ba kể gành rồi. Kể gành thì rút trước ba làm gì á. Chỉ biết kể sơ sơ thôi à, biết chích gì thôi à. Chỉ biết sơ sơ kể vậy thôi chứ không chắc tin à. Đáng lẽ ba kể xạo. Theo nghĩ là chắc ba tốt rồi, thấy đó làm chân ốc động viên xin nhà nghèo thì xin người nhà ít cơm này cho người ta, chứ cho gạo cho mì này nọ. Chắc nghĩ ba hồi đó chắc cũng tốt. Nhà có 5 người, 27 á. Tính là mấy người có chồng đó. Một người chị lấy chồng ở ngay chỗ 17 á. Tại hồi đó em trắng lắm, mặc nhộm nguyên đầu vàng lắm. Em mà đi thành phố với bạn á, mặc một sọt đai ba lô đi chơi á, mấy Mấy người Mỹ này cũng kêu hello hello chào quá trời luôn.
Tưởng đâu cô là Mỹ.
Nếu mà ba thì được thì cho ba đi du lịch thôi, chứ cho ba ở đây tại vì ba lớn tuổi rồi á. Nếu được thì cho tốt.
Dạ tốt hả?
Tại vì ba cũng lớn tuổi rồi, ở bên đây có con cái này nọ. Nếu mà còn trẻ thì cho ba qua bển được, này cũng lớn rồi, ở bên đây có con cái rồi. Nhưng mà chắc không chịu rồi.
Mày chịu đi.
Tại vì ba lớn rồi á, ở bên đó thì con cái đi xa á.
Nhưng mà bà biết sao? Bà biết ở bên Mỹ không?
Biết. Thì có như em đó hết chứ không có giấu. Nếu mà giúp được thì nhà em thì sung sướng được tí xíu. Giờ tại vì đang khổ quá, sợ chắc người ta không chịu giúp đỡ thì có không tin. Mấy người công an xã không phải xã gì, mấy người đã thấy mất công an gì đó. Bởi vì ba đâu có dắt vô nhà đâu. Không sợ ba, sợ bị gạt ba đi á, bắt ba đi luôn á. Sợ vậy thôi.
Well, this is my third trip in, seeing John, who we think is John, but not sure which way to go because he says a lot of information that's true, but a lot of information that does not match up with the real John Hartley Robertson.
When we asked for date of birth, he gave us the wrong date of birth for sure.
Some of his story does not match up.
It doesn't make sense for a 76 years old man, Caucasian, look Caucasian, claimed to be a missing American soldier.
I mean, why would he put his life on the line if he's not who he says he is?
If he's truly who he is, he deserves to go back home to, even if he, to see his family before he died, right?
Well, like you said, when he saw this picture and he looked at it and he just broke down.
Yeah, broke down, right?
And was that a show? I mean, I don't know.
I think it's a sixth sense that you cannot mistake your own blood.
If you're going to scam, so if people scam somebody, they usually do it for a reason.
Yeah,
They usually do it
for money,
but there hasn't.
for themselves.
There's people that we have met along the way that have used the MIA issue that are try to scam us, try to scam others, but he hasn't.
What person would be willing to have their tooth pulled unless they want to find out who they are, whether he believes he's an American soldier and it's convenient for him to say that, I'm John Hartley Robertson, someone said I was. And
It just doesn't make sense to me, and that's the unanswered question. Who is he, where is he from? He's got to be from somewhere. We're all from somewhere.
Now we just have to wait for the proper DNA tests and other tests to confirm.
As long as there's information, as long as there's something there might be truth to, you follow it. You don't leave somebody behind.
Đi Việt Nam này nọ rồi rớt xuống, bị bắn rớt xuống. Cái thân của mình là 3 lạng rồi đấy, 3 lạng mới bị mấy vòng không nhớ nữa. Lúc đó là coi hốt quảng rồi, thì mình nhảy xuống ập xuống là coi cây chồi rồi đó, té ngồi xuống. Lúc đó là thấy rồi mình đã nằm ở dưới đó rồi. Mấy ông đó là huy sĩ tới là chỉ chúng mình bắt lấy đồ để hết đi. Hỏi mà đi bao nhiêu người đó, có đi bao nhiêu người, nó không biết đi rồi. Xong rồi nó nhốt với thời gian lâu rồi nó nhốt ở trên. Rồi cái kém gai của Michael á, cái Mỹ á, trào là nó trên lên xuống, xỉu lên xuống. Nó vỗ cây lên đầu mày, nó nói tiếng Việt để đế quốc nghe mình nghe đi Việt lỡ mấy ông Việt Cộng mày đế quốc hả, quốc lính này đánh tưởng chết rồi, tưởng B-52 bỏ tưởng theo sao bỏ trốn đi ra chuyển đi nữa, chuyển đi xuống Bình Long vậy đó. Hy vọng là coi là bên bạn mình cứu mình có thể là cứu được. Còn hy vọng vẫn tính không bao giờ khai hết. Vấn đề đó là giam tiếp nó hỏi nó khai thác nó không biết gì hết trơn. Rồi sau đó tôi mới là ở đó trồng bắp cải, trồng củ mì vậy á. Anh bộ đội kêu củ sắn á, người Nam kêu củ mì á. Anh trồng sao mới gặp bà xã, gặp vợ. Ông làm y tá trong đó. Có ông VC là ông cậu của bên vợ. Rồi nói là cũng giúp cho đỡ trong đó. Không phải là tên Đặng Đăng Ngọc, mà tên rồi Sơn bên Lê Chuông. Sơn với Lê Sơn. Tới y như giờ đó, tên Đặng Đăng Ngọc là vợ đặt cho. Đặng làm giấy tờ, Đặng giải phóng làm giấy tờ. Là mới khai lấy tên của ông xã. Ngày sinh của mình là 1930. Mấy quên rồi. Vô ở vùng nông thôn, nhưng mà chuyện ở vùng nông thôn á, đấy rồi mới làm hộ khẩu ở đây. Thì mấy ông hồi đó là kêu an ninh đó, nói tôi là CIA Mỹ chạy trốn này. Cái vợ tôi nói phải, ông là lai Pháp á, lai Pháp thì ông phải đâu. Ông ở tôi nói có mấy con giờ cho đăng ký hộ khẩu, không cho đăng ký. Thăm anh em chứng minh cũ với gia đình. Tiếng mà ba mẹ. Tôi cho nên chụp hình rồi lăng ta làm giấy tờ thủ tục hết trơn, rồi phone về để tòa đại sứ bên Bangkok bên Mỹ không biết là không trả lời. Rồi công dân Mỹ giờ mình có nhờ là bà con bên Mỹ giúp đỡ cho vấn đề tinh thần được về xung họp với gia đình gặp người thân. Nên xin mình có ủng hộ cho nó tiền để cho tại công này. Nhưng mình đừng thực là mình đưa coi những là đòi gì đưa hết để làm cho thứ chứng mình cho rõ ràng.
I received a tooth sample in April of 2012, and it came in a white envelope and was marked JHR. I had received what appeared to be a second molar, and it had a lot of discoloration on the surface. I assumed that it was a burial sample, a cold case, something that had seen the elements and had been exposed for a while. When I learned later that it was actually extracted from a living human and had been sent to me, I was taken aback. It's the first tooth from a living individual that I've ever worked on. Based on its condition and the color of it, I was really surprised. So the information or isotopes that are recorded in this tooth enamel don't change, and they were recorded during young adulthood. And so from this oxygen isotope and strontium isotope data, we can get an idea of where in the world this individual spent their childhood. Based on the oxygen and strontium data in combination that we measured for the tooth enamel, it is very unlikely that the individual JHR was from France or Vietnam. It is very likely that he actually lived during young childhood between the ages of 3 and 12 in the United States. In other words, it's very likely that he is an American citizen.
In 1968, when John went missing, he left behind a family of a wife and 2 daughters. We had spoken to both daughters about the situation, and it was kind of a shut door. And as I went on, the more we got in it, the more the door shut. If that was my father, one way or the other, I would like to meet the guy. But somehow, somebody got in there and the door started to shut. Yeah, it's kind of hard. How do you tell a person that your family doesn't want to know if you're alive or dead? And I don't know how he'll respond to that. It's going to emotionally affect him because he is very emotional. It seems like when you talk to him about these things, it really breaks his heart. I mean, it sincerely breaks his heart. So I can't imagine saying, well, John, we found out you're American, but the family that we think is yours they don't want to know. They don't want to give up DNA, or they just don't want to pursue it.
It certainly is saddening to know that John has been over there 40 plus years and has been discredited to a great extent and abandoned. What must he be thinking? What happened in the United States? Why isn't there an uproar? Why isn't there more inquiries, incursions, searches to look for him? But I don't think I could get over the fact that nobody cares. Nobody's looking for me.
Hey, you know.
Hey, homie. My buddy, my brother.
Hello.
Good seeing you. Good seeing you, mister.
Joe, remember Joe? Này ông Ed.
Ed, glad to meet you.
Yeah.
Long time no see.
So Ed, what do you think? Is it him?
Yep.
Are you sure?
Yes, all the features, the nose, the chin, and especially the sidebrow. This is John Hartley Robertson, the man I served with in Delta Company 1503, 82nd Airborne in 1959 to 1961.
So he was your instructor?
Yes, I was 18, 19, 20 years old, and you were 4 years older than me. He was the tall sergeant first class with a southern accent. The last time I saw John was probably 1960, summer of 1960.
1960.
Yes, yes.
Now you remember him, but does he remember you? Có nhớ trong cái toán mà chú huấn luyện á, chú có nhớ chút gì về ổng không? Không nhớ nổi à? Yeah.
I've been looking for you for over 20 years. It started when I learned of his crash at the 82nd Airborne All-American Week.
So what was the year?
It'd have to be 90, 91.
1991.
That's when I started the search.
Yeah, okay.
See if he remembers any of them.
Thì chú coi thử mấy cái hình này coi chú có nhớ được cái gì không trong đó. That's back in the 60s, right?
60s. Yeah. And this one is the barracks that we served in. He may remember that.
Chú hình này coi chú nhớ không?
Those are 4 people in our squad that he was over.
Mấy hình này cảm động nhau tìm được. Yeah. He said that he's really moved when you still keep all these pictures with you. Yeah. When he heard us speaking, he can understand a little. He wants to say something, he couldn't find the words.
With all that we've done, working with you, we have collected, through the years, we have talked with your family, with the family, over and over again. And as much as we have tried, at first we've had some reports that they would cooperate, but they do not want to. They don't want to help. They don't want to give the DNA. They don't want to recognize you right now.
Yeah, mới nghĩ sao?
Chắc cũng bị người ta lừa gạt rồi.
Yeah. He said he doesn't know, but he believed that they wouldn't be that bad, right? But they may be ripped off by somebody or misleading by somebody else there. He doesn't believe that they're that bad. Yeah.
In spite of that, we have some real good news. The testing they do on your tooth, it says that you're not French, you're not Vietnamese. It proves that you are an American. You understand that, huh?
Yeah, he understands. Yeah.
You are an American citizen and you're a veteran. What you did in 1968 is that that you flew in to help your brothers in arms. You flew in to save another soldier. That makes you a hero. Though you seem forgotten. The veterans don't forget.
During the team's investigation, they discovered that your mother, Mildred, had sent many letters to the Army inquiring about your status, and the Army has never responded to them. We have some good information. You have 3 sisters. Joan and Jean are older than you.
Yeah. Bà Joan với bà Jean đó là chị lớn của chú. Yeah.
And you have a younger sister, Carol.
Yeah, Carol là em nhỏ hơn, em kế của chú.
We just found out this information about your 3 sisters, and we are pursuing more information on those 3 sisters.
And we're going to see this to the end.
To finally come to this point in time and seeing you, and I'm convinced beyond a shadow of doubt that you are John Hartley Robertson. It's really a spiritual ending for me after this 20 years plus search for you.
Yeah.
Goodbye, John.
Bye, John.
We're going to meet again.
No.
We will see you again.
We'll see. Okay, bye. Oh, John? Yeah. What a blessing. You're a blessing. It's not a goodbye. Yeah, thank you. Continuation, no goodbyes. Yeah. It's going. Thank you, man.
Bring it up. We're gonna come back.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, take care.
Mình là người Mỹ thì chắc chắn là người Mỹ là mình mới là tin tưởng mới đưa ra đi khám nghiệm này kia nọ chứ đâu phải mà không phải là ấy đâu phải điên khùng. Đó. Mình đã gốc mình là American rồi đâu phải là dỗm đâu, mình là không buồn giận gì nha, tại vì nghĩ là mình đã mất tích chết rồi, không phải gia đình cũng không giận buồn gì. Anh ở Việt Nam coi là bao la đâu biết kiếm được, cũng không buồn giận trách gì ở gia đình. Có hy vọng là chính phủ Mỹ có thể là còn thương hại thương xót một chiến binh của người Mỹ ở Việt Nam, có thể xin là trở về, hay là người Mỹ bỏ qua, là bỏ sót lại ở Việt Nam. Thì tôi nghĩ là cũng muốn trở về thăm quê hương. Bao nhiêu lần bị quýnh khi đập đài, khi nào khai là không bao giờ khai. Nếu mà phản tổ quốc là coi như là mình đã làm sai bên kia hết trơn rồi. Thấy có người nhìn, anh em đã nhìn. Hắn nhủ là coi còn sống sót lại trên cái bay đường thoát nạn ra. Người bốc cháy vậy đó, rồi coi tiêu hết người còn nhảy không kịp. Nhắn nhủ là anh em là coi như là mình cũng còn sống ở đây. Trong cuộc chiến tranh Việt Nam thì cũng là đồng hành với nhau, là coi như cũng gây thương tích thì cũng là đối đãi, còn một người thì số may mắn, một số người thì cũng chẳng hạn như tôi không được may mắn cũng như hôm có may mắn được về đó kia nọ, thì cũng số phận cũng hoàn cảnh như nhau, nên mỗi người mỗi hoàn cảnh khác nhau, hoàn cảnh may mắn người không có may mắn. Rồi sau này ông mới suy nghĩ, ông mới thương cái là vì đi hỏi chứ cũng nói cũng thông cảm người trên này không biết tôi vợ con thì đi phải báo biết, hỏi kêu lên chơi thì ông không nói trước mà mấy thằng Biên đưa xuống nói đi lên chút về đi lên Tây Ninh rồi chút về. Mình nghĩ cũng như là coi như là cũng coi như hết mình thì giúp đỡ, cũng là thương anh em, nhớ ơn dữ lắm. Làm cái chiến tranh làm cái đó là thể xác con người là mất cái tinh thần mấy cái kia chiến đấu. Tự gốc nó cũng không khỏi để làm thì cái cuộc sống hay cả là coi như là quy hoàng, không có cực khổ như đây, chúng cũng trở nên người khác ở bên Mỹ. Cái ngày tương lai đó là coi như sáng ngời lên, còn không may mắn thì có ở đây thì là coi như tương lai coi như mù mịt, không điều kiện, không có để mà sống có cái là được học khôn được cái là biết cái là cực khổ rồi, biết cách đối xử của người dân nè, các cái chính quyền đó. Thành ra là mình cũng không có hối hận gì, thành ra bộ may cái số mình không may mắn gì thì nó bị cái cuộc đời nó bị như vậy rồi, nhưng mà cái số mình còn hơn. Thành ra cái cuộc đời mình là tới đó rồi, thành thử nên phải chịu thôi. Đó. Thì mai này coi như là vì ơn trên cho mình còn sống ngày hôm nay là con được hiểu các thứ hết. Mình cũng không có tôi không phải bất tổ quốc, không có phải bò tổ quốc.
The government never talked to us. Nobody even offered to take our DNA in order to prove that this was Johnny. I wonder sometimes if they don't want to admit they made a mistake, that this might discredit them in some way.
He's been telling people, I'm John Hartley Robertson. No one has come to his only remaining sister and asked for some DNA or at least for some kind of information or some kind of corroboration with figuring out if he is who he says. We truly don't understand.
They just forgot us like they forgot Johnny. I did not really want him to go into the Green Berets. He wanted it so badly that Mother and Daddy gave him permission to go ahead and do it. He loved it. He loved the adventure that he found there. The last time I saw Johnny was in 1967 when he had come home on furlough.
I remember in my 10th birthday when his helicopter was shot down and it just all changed. After that, our family reunions they just weren't as joyful.
I think I was around 12, maybe 13 when we found out. We weren't sure exactly what happened.
I found my dad out in the backyard crying, and I had never in my life seen my dad cry before. I think he was still thinking that Johnny was missing in action. I think it shortened my dad's life. I really do. I, of course, couldn't believe that I'd lost my brother. He was always so important in my life when I was younger that I couldn't believe I had actually lost him. I had 2 brothers and 2 sisters, and they're all gone now except me.
I think the hardest thing about it being this much time is thinking what he went through. And I think it would be hard not to think, why didn't somebody come get me?
I'm glad he found another family, because everybody needs somebody. And I would like to meet this daughter. She is absolutely beautiful.
His daughter looks just like one of my cousins. I mean, it's really exciting because it's family we didn't know we had.
If he decides he wants to come home, he will be welcomed. If he decides he wants to take care of his Vietnamese family, that will be okay.
There's just no way to process that somebody that for over 40 years you believe to be dead may be alive and may be looking for you. It's a lot of worrying about, how has he been all these years? Has he needed us and we weren't there?
I think that Tom and Ed have earned a star in heaven when they get there because of what they've done. Not everybody is concerned about somebody that's not related to them. I had begun to think, miracles just don't happen. They just don't happen in today's times. But if this turns out to be Johnny, and he has survived for 44 years, this is a miracle, and we have to admit it is.
Hi, Gail. I can recognize Gail.
There they are.
It's like I've known you.
I know, old friend. I recognize your picture.
I seen you on the film.
Ed, how are you?
God bless you. God bless you.
Hi, Tom. I've heard so much about you.
I heard a lot about you.
It's so good to finally
Good to meet you.
And you're Ed, you talked to me first, right?
Yes.
And I thought he was...
darling.
I'll tell you now what I thought you
You look so good.
We
Nice to meet you.
appreciate what all y'all have done.
Oh, it's been a privilege. It's been an honor.
Oh, he is such a great person.
We love you.
We thank you so much.
Oh, that's okay.
All you've done and what you've accomplished and stuck with it all these years.
Oh, thank you. It's been worth it.
And I'm sure you had to pay the price, but we
that's all right.
appreciate it.
Oh, thank you.
thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Are you all right? Are you okay?
Yeah, okay. I'm good. Okay.
You're okay.
Okay, yeah.
Well, as long as you know you're okay.
Yeah.
We absolutely never
Yeah.
forgot about you.
Okay.
We remembered you all the
Yeah.
time.
Make sure, yeah.
I went up to the mountain because you asked me to. Up over the clouds to where the sky was blue. I could see all around me, everywhere. I could see all around me, everywhere. Sometimes I feel like I'd never been nothing but tired, and I'll be working till the day I expire. Sometimes I lay down, no more can I do. But then I go on again, because you asked me to. Some days I look down, afraid I will fall. And though the sun shines, I see nothing at all. Then I hear your sweet voice, oh, 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 come and then go, come and then go, telling me softly, you love me so. The peaceful valley, just over the mountain. The peaceful valley, few come to know. I may never get there, ever in this lifetime, but soon or later I will go.